Okay. A few folks showing up. See, Councillor Ward is here as well. That's good to see. We are expecting approximately 10 folks have signed up. And I see 10 now are in attendance this evening, so I will start right away into it if that's okay. And good evening then, everybody. And welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting. My name is Logan Jeffermans and I'm a planner with the city's Development Services Department. The focus of tonight's meeting will be on the currently proposed applications for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment at 320 Bayfield Street, also known as the Bayfield Mall. Please be aware that we are recording this meeting for the public record. All information provided is being collected and will be used for the purposes of garnering your input to respond to inquiries and to be notified of future meetings, and will be considered public information. Should you have any questions regarding this collection, please contact the Development Services Department, myself, and some other technical staff who are on the meeting tonight. And my contact details will be provided in a bit of a chat function or are available on the proposed developments webpage and in the mail out that hopefully most of you have received. I would like to let everyone know that there are still staff behind the scenes managing the technology tonight. They have the ability to interrupt the meeting at any time and will endeavor to allow the applicant and each member of the public the opportunity to speak. Please bear with us if there's any technical issues. Again, as I mentioned, there should be about 10 folks in attendance tonight. And Councillor Ward is one of those that I'm aware of. Tonight's meeting is not a statutory requirement under the Planning Act, as the application is still in the very early stages of review. The intent of tonight's meeting is more so to provide members of the public, yourselves, with an opportunity to become familiar with the development application and the planning review process we are currently in. And also let you have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, Nick Wood, who's joining us there, and provide some feedback on his presentation. So what can we expect from tonight's virtual neighborhood meeting? A brief presentation from the applicant's representative, Nick, describing the proposal, a brief overview of the city's review process and timing, an opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or myself as city staff, and provide comments or identify concerns with the application at this early stage. What not to expect: city staff to provide recommendations on the application or a detailed analysis of this proposal. This will occur later on in the review process as part of a public meeting and staff review of the application. A debate on the merits of the proposal between city staff and applicant will also not be happening tonight, so hopefully you're not looking for that. Once we move on to the Q&A period, if you wish to ask questions or provide a comment, you will be required to use the meeting controls to virtually raise your hand. A little bit of a foreign concept for a few of us, although I guess we've been doing this now for a few years. So if you're in Zoom, that requires you to hit the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. For those of us who are joining us by traditional phone or dial-in, you may press 9 when the opportunity arises to raise your virtual hand. And when you are called upon, I will reach out and call upon individuals to speak in a priority sequence. You can then, if you're on a phone, press 6 to unmute yourself. I'll go through that again when we get closer to that time. You'll be called upon by myself to speak, and we'll have to unmute yourself, or actually our technical staff will be able to assist in that process. We'll please then ask for you to clearly state your name and address and provide your comment or question. As we work through the questions and comments later in this meeting, I respectfully request that members of the public please avoid repeating the same questions and comments over and over again. I understand that there may be some issues that are key to a lot of individuals, but we just want to make sure that we're making the best use of our time here. So once a specific matter has been identified, it will be documented by myself and the applicant, and we will provide a response verbally this evening, if possible, as well as a response later in the process during the public meeting or in a written format through any subsequent submissions. Nick would also be providing that. This approach allows us to move to have a very productive meeting and to conclude the meeting as scheduled, hopefully on time. Those that have registered for the meeting by providing a mailing or email address will be added to the mailing list to receive further information about this application, in addition to any other circulations as required under the Planning Act for a future public meeting should that occur. So before we get into the presentations, I just wanted to quickly highlight the next steps of the application process. As mentioned, we are in the very early or initial stages of this application. The application has completed pre-consultation technical review with a variety of internal staff, city staff, and external agencies, with the expectation that an application would then be forthcoming. After tonight's meeting, the applicant will need to incorporate comments received from this neighborhood meeting and make a presentation through the public meeting process before the planning committee. The formal submission will be reviewed with comments received from the city's technical departments and external agencies, as well as consideration of your input, the public's input. This neighborhood meeting is established early in the development process to ensure local concerns are incorporated and addressed through the city's review. Following tonight's meeting and review of the formal applications, there will be a public meeting with council scheduled in the future. The public meeting is a statutory requirement under the Planning Act. Everyone who registered for tonight's meeting, as well as all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands, will be notified of that public meeting. The public meeting will also very likely be held virtually, similar to tonight's meeting. At the public meeting, the applicants will present an application to council and again answer questions. At that public meeting, applicants generally identify that a neighborhood meeting has been held and provide an overview and a response to the issues and concerns that were raised in that meeting, tonight's meeting. Members of the public will again have an opportunity to provide either verbal or written comments at the public meeting. Following the public meeting, staff will continue the technical review process associated with the application, and the applicants may make necessary revisions to the development proposal. Once the review process has concluded, a staff recommendation report will be brought forward to council for their consideration. All comments received through the review process, including those received at the neighborhood and public meetings, will be identified and addressed in the staff report and will form part of the staff's recommendation on the subject application. We'll now move along to the applicant's presentation. As mentioned, the applicant will be presenting first, followed by an opportunity for any of you tonight to ask questions or provide comments. So the proposal seeks to redesignate a portion of the property as a special policy area and also rezone a portion of the property, 320 Bayfield Street, to allow for self-storage uses within the existing commercial structure. No further planning applications are expected as part of the proposed development. I will now hand the meeting over to Nick from Corbett Land Strategies, Inc., who will share his presentation. It should be about 10 to 15 minutes or so, or less, on the proposed development. And Nick, sorry, but hopefully that led up enough for you to take it away.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks, Logan. I'll share my screen. Hopefully I can do this. All right. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, you're just on your PowerPoint mode, so move over to the presentation mode, and yeah, perfect.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Logan, for that intro. Yeah, no, it's a pretty straightforward application. And as Logan mentioned, my name's Nick Wood. I'm with Corbett Land Strategies. We're assisting the owners of the mall in this development. I'll get into it shortly, but you know, it's a pretty straightforward approach to just maximizing some new tenancy opportunities for the mall. But yeah, so I've done a quick agenda for this presentation. We'll get into the meeting purpose, really just reiterates what Logan has already mentioned, talk a little bit about the subject lands, the proposal, you know, some comparisons, talk about the official plan a little bit more and zoning bylaw, and then, you know, from our perspective, what some of the timing that we see ourselves. Like Logan mentioned, a pre-consult was scheduled or held in March 2021. Staff were, through that meeting, staff provided comments and some of the required studies should an application be submitted, because of the really high level nature of it and really just being about the use. You know, the required studies are a lot less technical than I think other applications that the public may often see. So in addition to that, it's set out that a neighborhood meeting that we're holding tonight would be required to elicit some feedback from residents and neighbors on this application before it's filed. And I think that's a great opportunity because I think alongside myself, the mall really welcomes its neighbors' kind of comments on this proposal. So I think this is a great opportunity. The subject lands, you're all familiar with this better than even I. But like Logan mentioned, this is located, the subject land is located at 320 Bayfield Street, referred to the Bayfield Mall, located northwest of Highway 401 or Highway 400 and between Bayfield Street and Coulter Street. Has an approximate area of around 126 square meters in size, and obviously you all know some of the retail and commercial uses that are operate there. There's Canadian Tire, Dollarama, and so forth. Around the area, again, you're more familiar with it than I, but we've got residential uses to the north and east, as well as open space and Highway 400 to the south and west. So I've just provided some street view snapshots of the rear of the existing mall, because that's the area that the mall is considering this use should it be approved. What you have in front of you is a preliminary site plan. As Logan mentioned, the proposal is mainly intended to convert a vacant space within the mall for the purposes of utilizing the space for self-storage use. This would again this is intended to maximize the mall's tenancy opportunities, which are, as you can imagine, struggling through some changes in some of the commercial landscape. It would involve primarily internal renovations with some minor exterior facade improvements, which I've got some elevations I would like to show everyone in attendance tonight. The idea of locating it to the back is pretty strategic. We want to minimize, obviously, the visual impacts along Bayfield. And as maybe we'll get into later on the presentation and maybe through some of your questions, Bayfield Mall is identified as an intensification corridor. So you know, we don't want to preclude any of those envisioned future uses. So you know, we think this is a pretty compatible use for the mall and to help assist it with some of its tenancy opportunities. As I mentioned, we've done some preliminary elevations to help illustrate what the use could look like. This is just, again, an illustration of what it could look like. The coloring may change. The location of the entrance features and the bay doors may also change. Some of the facade materials as well, and cladding may change as well. But this gives an indication of, you know, the improvements that the mall is considering at this time. Again, this is a little bit of, these are a couple renderings, a couple angles of the space and how it could be utilized, again, illustration purposes, and really to elicit some feedback from a lot of the residents in attendance tonight. From an official plan perspective, as Logan mentioned, the site is currently designated community center commercial, and amendments are required because self-storage uses aren't permitted within that. And you know, that through the site-specific policy area redesignation, we would like to and propose to add self-storage as a permitted use. From the zoning bylaw perspective, it's currently zoned shopping center commercial, so C3, which, similar to the official plan, does not currently permit self-storage uses. But through the zoning bylaw amendment, we would introduce a site-specific provision for the self-storage space. One of the required studies that would need to be submitted along any future applications would be a planning justification report, which would demonstrate how the proposed use would comply with the goals of the official plan as well as the goals of the zoning bylaw. And then that would justify, that would be intended to justify the proposed development. So simply, as Logan set out, there's a lot of items that still have to occur before the application is even submitted. So one of them being the completion of the neighborhood meeting, which obviously we're having right now. Hopefully we're going to be receiving some of the comments from the resident councillor. We would refine the concept plan a little bit further based on the comments that are received tonight. We would complete some of these technical and supporting studies, including the planning justification report. The application would be submitted. Staff would receive it, circulate it to departments and agencies, and then likely there may be a revisions to the submitted materials, Hopefully by then it moves on to presentation to council and committee, and then a decision by the council and committee would be rendered. But that's pretty much it. I wanted to keep it pretty short and sweet because I know a lot of people have a lot of better things to do with their time. So, and the questions I think are the most important thing. So Logan, if it's all right, I'll turn it back over to you.
That's